Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Daily Night. I am your host, Brian Smith, and today I'm flying solo, but I have a very special topic that I am, quite frankly, very stern about, and it's one that's going to take a little longer than usual. So sit back and relax. It is about Big 12, the playoffs, UCF, and how the Big 12 brands itself with a lot of help from the Knights right here in Central Florida. To do this, it's a pretty broad topic because branding, social media, media just in a traditional sense, meaning newspaper, radio, etc., all of it ties together. All of it. But there also needs to be additional pieces. And I'm going to talk about each layer of it. From my experiences, again, this is just me, but this is my experiences, and I've had the opportunity to be around a lot of great coaches, a lot of great players. It's the great thing about being in media. You just learn through osmosis. This is why we do this, Brian. This is why we don't do this, Brian, etc. A lot of behind the scenes backdoor conversations that, quite frankly, changed the way I look not only at college football, but the way I go about my daily life. Habits that I learned from people about training, things you eat, things you don't do, strength coaches, you name it. College football has changed everything that I do day to day. With that being stated, there are three primary areas that I want to talk about in regards to the playoffs and everything that kind of goes on with college football. Obviously, unless you live under a rock, you probably know by now that the deal did not get done, that in 2026, we don't know what the format will be, but they did not for the next, let's see, the 22, 3, 4, and 5 seasons. It's still going to continue to be a 4-game playoff. Good or bad, that's debatable, but it just depends on which chair you sit in, and that is the whole point of this. Let me preface these next 3 points by saying I'm not advocating for any one school to do what I'm about to show or anything like this. This is more collective, but just hear me out. Then I'll go back through each 3 before I get into some of the finer points, a little smaller. Number one, if you're going to go to the bargaining table with the TV networks and the advertisers, and let's not kid ourselves, this is not about the benefit of the young men in the helmets and the shoulder pads. You have to make the people that put up the money happy. Period. The Southeastern Conference is beyond a kingpin at this point with regards to that. They could care less if it expands right now because barring something really unusual, at least 2 out of 3 years in a 14 playoff, I will project, moving forward, they're going to get 2 teams. If you go to 8, they'll get at least 3, if not 4, if not 5. That's the problem the other conferences are worried about when you have that many teams. So much of the money goes to one conference, whether it's really the way it should be based on just the best teams or not. That kills them long term because that takes money out of their pocket for the following category, and that is facilities. It's kind of like the catch-22 phrase that you've probably heard a million times. We can't catch so-and-so without more money, but so-and-so has more money, meaning like Chase Bank or what, like a bank starts up. It's hard to catch them because they already have upfront money. Well, the Southeastern Conference has crazy boosters, and their money from state legislative perspective, they funnel in. What's going on at Georgia right now? They're only in phase 1 of phase 2 and 3 coming up. And they already had, from what I've been told by numerous people, the number 1 group of facilities in the country. And they have 2 more phases left. They're already number 1. This is from numerous people, parents, coaches, and players that are visiting. You have to catch up to that in some way, shape, or form. It is flat out an arms race. There is no exception to that. And that means every school in the Big 12, I don't know how you do it. And again, I'm not getting into that. They need to step up every couple of years. If you want to get into the playoffs and you want to make it a happy, you're going to get so many spots or however they're trying to negotiate it. I'm not going down that either. But you set yourself up for success with more facilities. Give you an example. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Texas for a 7-on-7, and I decided, I've never driven down I-35 from Dallas. I'm going to go down to San Antonio, see the Riverwalk, come back. Just it. Long drive. and I saw a lot of cows. There's not much on the side of the road in Texas, just like most states, even here in Florida where I live. But I can tell you what I did see. Driving through Waco where Baylor is, I looked over to my right and I'm like, holy crap, look at that stadium. Baylor has very good facilities. That's really important. And I'm glad for that because it's a really good school. It's a school with a lot of tradition in the state of Texas. They have an excellent head football coach. I'll talk about him in just a moment. He's arguably the most important coach in the Big 12 right now. And again, I'll touch on that in just a moment. But it's an example of what everybody needs to be at a minimum within the next 2 to 3 years. When they go back and bargain, they'll be doing it over the next several years, but when they really go back and bargain in like 23 or 24, when they try to figure out this playoff thing, again, the people that matter, fair or not, are the advertisers and the people that run the television networks. They want the money coming in. You impress them with what you have to sell. That's a big part of it. They go visit these places. They're familiar with a lot of them. Baylor's upgrades were fantastic, and I don't know where they're at all over campus, but I know I have some family, extended family has a lot of history at Baylor since some kids there, and they talk about how great it is. Okay. I just saw it, just from the highway, what I saw, I was like, whoa, impressive. The buildings around, not just football, everything impressive. We are in an eye candy society. See it, do it, and it's now. Everything is now. It's instantaneous. And I'll admit, my first reaction was, it's fantastic. Now, I didn't get to go to the other places. I didn't get to go to Stillwater, obviously, with T-Bone Pickens, may he rest in peace. All the money he dumped into Oak State. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess they're in pretty good shape. Oklahoma State's program's in pretty good shape in terms of their head coach. He's a really good head coach, etc. But there's been some other turnover. You got the 4 teams coming in, BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and, of course, your UCF Knights. And then you have other programs that are still trying to figure it out. Texas Tech is the one that I'm curious about. I have no opinion yet, but it's in a tough spot because it's 5 hours from Dallas and it's isolated. We'll see what they can do. Oklahoma obviously is leaving. That hurts. Texas leaving. That hurts. A&M had already left. That hurts. Kansas State, and Iowa State are 3 programs I'm not going to be visiting anytime soon, I can assure you. But they are in particular, they need to consistently improve their facilities too. That all goes into the playoff format. And it's a round robin. Because if you get what you want out of the playoff format, meaning how many teams you get or how many another league doesn't get, hint, the SEC, all these teams they're wanting guaranteed bargaining chips. And it's a yes-no conversation, and those never end very well. The problem is this round that we just went through is a situation where it had to be unanimous. The next one is just a majority vote. So if the Big 12 sits with whatever it is they're trying to do, and they're not minority, they could really get cut short, and that could hurt their league for 20, 30 years. It's very important. So number 1 is facilities. Number 2, with the games the next couple of years, and not this season, but the one after, UCF and those other 3 squads, Houston, Cincinnati, and BYU will join the league. They are all going to do something that hasn't been done before, and that's play in a league. In Texas, it's a broad league. You got West Virginia that's come down for a long time. That's another unique school because obviously it has no proximity to the Big 12 region, Texas and Oklahoma. They need to have really good showings the next year to 2 years. And I'm not talking about, not everybody's going to go to a bowl. I get that. It is imperative that things just go well. And I don't know what else to say to that, but the Big 12 has been stomped on in the national media, ESPN in particular, for quite some time. And when the only team that goes to the playoff is Oklahoma and they haven't done well, there's really not much you can say to dispute it. So if you're not sending teams like, let's say this year or next year, Oklahoma, for the sake of record, whatever year they end up leaving, but it's probably after this coming season. If Oklahoma doesn't make it, does anybody else at least have a great year? 10-2, go to a really good bowl and win the bowl game. And I know all the opt-outs make it really hard. They still need it to happen. Optics. See it now, do it now. No patience. Why are we catering to you in this agreement with the playoff? You guys never even win basic bowl game. These things will come up. They will come up. So when you have home games and you have all the fans and everything into it, especially out of conference. You need to win those. You need to win them convincingly. Those early season national games that you might have, any game they have, and I'm not even looking at the schedules. If Iowa State plays an unusual opponent, if Kansas State plays an unusual opponent, if Baylor plays an unusual opponent, meaning like a Big Ten school or whatever, and then, of course, all the way to the bowl game, the next season to 2 seasons is vital for the playoff format, in my opinion. Again, this is my opinion, but I have no reason not to believe it based on the information that I've been given over the last 10 to 20 years. These guys just look at numbers. They are number crunchers. Why are we catering to you? You can't even win and get into the playoff, blah, blah, blah. There's not much to go on. So they need to, until the league gets going, they need things to go well. Now, the media, this is just me, but I think they need to go out of their way. All these home venues, whether it's Baylor or UCF, you need to make the media really happy. And what I mean by that, not that they don't give you all the media guys and all that. I've never been to a place that didn't, literally. But they need to go out of the way to give them ideas on positive things to write about, to have podcasts about, anything else, because if not, that's just a wasted opportunity. And to that point, here's something else that's an extension of it, as I mentioned a few minutes ago. Dave Aranda, I'm going to use him probably a lot over the next several years. He's a very good football coach. He was a DC at LSU when they won the title in 2019. Prior to that, he was a defensive coordinator at Wisconsin when they were very successful as a defense. And he took a team in 2020 that wasn't good. They only won 2 games in his first year, but in the second year, they won the frickin' Big 12. From 2 wins to the conference champion, I don't care what league you're in, that's a good football coach. That being stated, he's getting more talent, and they have the facilities that I mentioned now. We need somebody that's in the traditional realm of the state of Texas or Oklahoma, in my opinion, to kind of push. And then other teams like, West Virginia, UCF, BYU. That's a really intriguing school. Got the religious background. All that. Create drama, in-state, out-of-state, traditional Big 12, non-traditional Big 12. There are so many storylines. It is insane. Go ahead and promote them. The schools, every SID that I've ever met is a pretty creative guy, or he wouldn't be in that spot in terms of how can we write this story to show a good spin on this or whatever. It's what they do, but they also have to do it and be honest. It's a fine line. Well, now you're also trying to help guys in the media write similar stories or give them ideas, or if they do something wrong, you call them. We talk to each other. You have to give them positive ideas. And right now, anybody that's in one of the markets that I'm UCF, obviously, that's writing about K-State. BYU is probably the most unique because, again, it's a religious institution, very specific. They've always been like an independent or Mountain West. They've never been anything in terms of Power 5. So many unique historical perspectives. It's phenomenal. Let's write about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the future rivalries. When UCF plays BYU on the road, I don't care if UCF is terrible that year. I'm going there. I've heard it's beautiful. I've seen the pictures, but I want to see with my own eyes, and I want to see what the culture is like. That's something else. Promote the Big 12 brand. All of that comes into that final point there. The Big 12 brand. Facilities, the home games so you can come see things for the media. Then the media takes and does something with it. Then you get the rivalries and all that out of it. It all intertwines. So hopefully do the following. Promote the Big 12 as an opportunity to be in the playoffs, whether it ends up being 8-12. I have no idea. I have nowhere near as strong an opinion about how many it should be. That's so hard that it's crazy. But being stated as much, the Big 12 right now, their perception is not that good because they had nobody besides Oklahoma. The playoff people, the ones, the talking heads in the very top media markets on the networks that I'm talking about, they look at it from a very small perspective. Did you or did you not win playoff games? And right now, the Big 12 doesn't have much to talk about. That's fact. They've had some good teams, but Texas has been completely underwhelming for Lord only knows how long. And then there's also the situation where you're going to be looking at the branding with these new 4 teams. So with that, a couple of points that I think are underlying, not quite as important as like the media. The media part's the biggest because that's where information comes from. That's what media is. But give us an extra point. And here's something else. The league is known as an offensive league, and that's fine. The high school coaching in the state of Texas is phenomenal, and they've really geared towards passing spreads, which kind of fits into college football. The kids are prepared well, especially the receivers and quarterbacks. Okay. That does not mean the following. When are we going to have a defensive player in the Big 12? He doesn't have to win the Heisman, but gives the league credit, gives it some mobility with the playoff committee, with just the league, and get rid of this ridiculous thing. And for the most part, I agree with it. They just don't play enough defense. If you watched the Oklahoma-Texas game last year, it wasn't that Oklahoma or Texas lacked talent on the defensive side of the ball. Now, again, the offenses both could throw it around, run, and all that, but they couldn't tackle for crap. They weren't physical enough on defense, and the mental errors were ridiculous. And I know there's a lot of strife between the Big 12 brethren and those two schools because they're leaving, but they had the physically best two rosters probably in the league. Baylor right in there and Oklahoma State pretty close, but those are probably the two. TCU, I don't know enough about their roster. They're kind of a wild card and they're going through transition. That's why I haven't really talked about them. I'm curious to see what they do as well. They could be important, but they've never been a dominant program, even though they're in the Metroplex of Dallas. You would think they would be better consistently, but they've had their runs. Now the final point is this. If you can get a couple of defensive guys that are able to be thrown out on ESPN, any private channels that do podcasts like this, but are quite frankly very geared towards that school, and they can push him and it gets out there, it's going to help the league again. The playoffs are about exposure. It's about trust. It's about what have you done lately. They need somebody to step up. And it could be anybody. But again, it would be great. And I'm talking about not just like, who's your defensive player of the year in the league. I'm talking about a guy that's going to go top 5 in the draft, something like that. It's an edge rusher or a corner that plays at Texas Tech, Baylor, Oklahoma State, Houston. Houston's got guys, and that team's going to be a threat for the playoffs at some point because, it's in one of the most populated cities in the world. There's a lot of prep football talent there. Somebody needs to have a defensive guy that is a freaking dude that ESPN can talk about. And it's not just, the Big 12 has offense. There's no defense. We need somebody like that. Second, in a similar point, we need all the media pages to do a good job once that happens. Not just my site, all of them, more the big brands, really. I'm a subsidiary. I just run a website under Sports Illustrated's umbrella called Fan Nation. It's a network they created under there, and I work for Fan Nation, and I love it. But I'm just one. It needs to be everybody. When that guy, I don't care what school he plays for, the defensive player, let's just say it's at Houston for whatever reason. When that guy is playing, we need to promote him. It could be a quarterback or something too, but especially if it's a defensive guy, you need to give credibility to him. Tweets, podcasts, etc., the whole 9 yards. For UCF or anybody else coming into the league, Cincinnati, Houston, or BYU, this is very beneficial. And it's the same with the old guard, the teams in Texas, Oklahoma State, and then Iowa State. They were part of the Big 8 at one point. Now they're, Big 12, their tradition, Kansas State, and of course, West Virginia. I don't think the league is in a very good standing right now to promote itself and to, quote unquote, get any good answers in terms of how they look at it from the playoff committee, because the defense in the league isn't very good. They haven't won playoff games. The two best teams in terms of tradition and money making are leaving the league. These are all just things that are obvious, but that doesn't mean it can't change. And quite frankly, change quickly. And that's what this podcast is, but you got to do all of it. So I'm just going to touch on them before I wrap this up. Facilities. Fair or not, if we're not spending, meaning whatever school you want to say you are, and I mean spending right now, you are not only hurting your school, you are hurting the Big 12 now and long term. There's just no way around it. And I know economics in this country right now are garbage. The inflation and all that's 20 to 35%, depending on where you are and what industry it is. The SEC is still doing it. I get the reports, I get the photographs, I get the conversations, I get the text messages. The only schools, when I ask kids who's got the best facilities, every single kid will tell me Georgia. I haven't heard a school otherwise. Literally 100%. If they've seen Georgia, 100% Georgia. 100%. And if kids haven't been there, Clemson's in the mix. They got pretty neat facilities. Alabama, one of the other SEC schools. Ohio State, Notre Dame to a degree, but theirs are even outdated. You got to update every 2 to 3 years. They got some stuff getting ready to go on there. So what are you doing at your school? Some of these other schools have bigger brands. So we need to make sure every school in the Big 12 between now and 24, if they're not putting in money, they're hurting the brand. And they could also hurt it because if you don't do well in the playoffs this next round, once it gets to 26, that's when the new playoff format will start, whatever it ends up being. Do you really think you're going to have even average, if you will, bargaining chips for the one after that? We don't know how many years the one to start in 26 will be. We don't know yet. But if it's in 30, 32, whatever, it could get to be pretty ugly. They need to buy in figuratively and literally to spend in a boatload of cash because the SEC is miles ahead. And when you go to the bargaining table, you better be able to say, well, this is what we're going to do to help our players get better, help our coaches recruit better players, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, it's a catch-22. I get it. And I'm not saying I have the answers. Somehow you still got to get it done, or the SEC is just going to consistently always be that league. And I don't think that's what the Big 12 is looking for, and certainly not UCF joining it. So while UCF has really improved their facilities, improved their recruiting and stuff, everybody needs to do that. UCF's administration has done a tremendous job, by the way. But there's no stopping. To put it in basic perception, you are never, ever done building your facilities. Every single second of every single year, there needs to be something that's going on in terms of upgrades. And I know the people in the accounting department get nervous when I say something like that. It's just the way it is, because I know Georgia is. I know Alabama is. I know Ohio State is. I have contacts all these places. It's insane what they're doing. If you were going to compete, you have to spend the money. Gus Malzahn's talked about competing for titles, and that's great. But the entire league needs to have that mentality as well, because it'll help UCF. When you beat teams that are in the top 20, it's going to boost your record. What happens when you boost your record? You go up, or perception of like win-loss is one thing, but who'd you beat? That's a better way to say it. If you beat top 20 teams, you can get in the playoff. You need facilities to get the recruits and all that. So, last point, just something to think about, and I don't really know if there's an answer to this. At what point can the Big 12 as a whole get rid of this perception that it is beneath like the other three primary leagues that people talk about? Maybe it's because it's a little more East Coast bias because the ACC hadn't done much lately. But the SEC, ACC, and Big Ten are by far the three most talked about conferences by the talking heads on TV, by far. Again, I think the ACC, part of that, Clemson's been really good for the most part until this last year. But it's an East Coast deal. A lot of them get to see their games. The other part of it, we need somebody to make the playoff other than Oklahoma. I'm just going to do that. Who makes it first out of the Big 12 once Oklahoma and Texas are gone? Let's do that. 2 questions. Just think to yourself, who makes it first? And what can they really do to kind of get themselves into that? I guess those are the 2. But anyway, please hit like and subscribe and make sure you hit that notification button. I appreciate it. This is a topic that's super convoluted, and I bring it back up once I get more information every 2 to 3 weeks, it seems like, because there's always something new. I didn't do this immediately once the news came out about not getting the contract done, but I wanted more info, so wanted to get that done. But everybody, please have a wonderful weekend. I will be back in Tampa from Orlando Under Armour early next week, talking a lot of recruiting. So everybody make sure you check out Inside the Knights, and have a great day.